Begin today at the Mishnah, at the bottom of Nun Beis Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the Yamud. Zok Teilige Mishnah, Oivid Kechavim, Mevatel, Avodas Kechavim, Shaloi V'Shal Chaveirei. A guy is able to nullify Avoda Zara, whether it's his or belongs to his friend. And we'll see in the next Mishnah how exactly you nullify, but a guy has the ability to do this. The Yisrael, Ein Mevatel, Avodas Kechavim, Shaloi V'Kechavim. A Yid, though, cannot nullify the Avoda Zara of a guy. As the Gemara brought already before, psukim for this, that a guy is the one that can be mevatel, but by a Yid you can't. Now, ha-mevatel Avodas Kechavim, if you mevatel the Avoda Zara itself, mevatel mishamsheh. So the different things that are made to serve the Avoda Zara, vessels, or whatever it may be, becomes batel as well. However, bitul mishamsheh, if you only nullify things that are serving the Avoda Zara, then mishamshu mutarin, those things are going to be mutar ba'ana, but v'hi asura, the Avoda Zara itself remains asur, because the Avoda Zara is not secondary, it's not tafel to the things that are serving it, it's the other way around. And therefore, in this case, the Avoda Zara remains asur. Sagt the Gemara, Masni lo Rebbe le Rab Shimon beRebbe, or another gersa here is Rab Shimon berei, Rab Shimon which was his son. So Rebbe taught his son Rab Shimon our Mishnah as we have it here, that Oivid Kechavim, Mevatel, Avodas Kechavim, Shaloi V'Shal Chaveirei. A guy is able to be Mevatel, the Avoda Zara that belongs to himself or to his friend. So Amalei, so Rab Shimon says to his father, Rebbe, Shani Salonu B'Yaldusecha, you taught us in your youth. So there's a discussion about this in the Paiskin. The fact that Rab Shimon refers to his father with this term of Rebbe. Yeah, the Ramah says that from here is a raya that when a person's father is his Rabbi Muvok, his main teacher, he has to refer to him with the name Rabbi. But the Shach there disagrees. The Shach says that Rabbeinu HaKadosh is an exception. Otherwise, you can still refer to a father as a tata. Either way, so Rab Shimon tells him that in your youth you taught the girsa of this halacha differently. Oivid Kechavim, Mevatel Avodas Kechavim Shaloi V'Shal Yisrael. That a guy can be mevatel the Avoda Zara that belongs to him, and it belongs to a Yid as well. That's how you taught the Mishnah. So the Gemara now explains first, what was this version that Rebbe taught them? The Yisrael Mika mevatla. Could you be mevatel the Avoda Zara of a Yid? The Avoda Zara of a Yid is never batel because v'havisam basaser ksiv. The pasuk says, what do you do with the Avoda Zara of a Yid? You have to bury it. It can never be batel. So Amar Rab Hillel berei de Rab Valas. Rab Hillel berei de Rab Valas explains, according to this gersa, what is it that Rebbe taught? What Rebbe was referring to is a case where there's an Avoda Zara, that there's a partnership. It's owned by the guy and a Yid together. And it's this that Rebbe, when he was young, he taught that a guy is able to be mevatel this Avoda Zara. Now, so the Gemara explains, B'Yaldusai Ma'ikesovar. So Rebbe, in his younger age, when he taught that a guy could be mevatel this Avoda Zara, that he has a partnership with a Yid, what did he hold then? B'Ziknusai Ma'ikesovar. And then later on, when Rebbe taught the Mishnah as we have it here, so apparently he retracted his opinion, and he held that in such a case that the guy cannot be mevatel the Avoda Zara. What was his opinion now? So the Gemara explains, B'Yaldusei Savar, when he was younger, so Rebbe held that Yisrael adaite the Oivid Kechavim Polach. This Avoda Zara, that the Yid has a partnership in it, and he also worships it as an Avoda Zara, he's doing it only with the awareness or because of the guy that's using it also as an Avoda Zara. So Kivin the Oivid Kechavim Mevatel, the Nafshei, so once the guy is Mevatel, his part in the Avoda Zara, the Yisrael nami mi batla. So the part of the Yid also becomes batla automatically because the Yid is not serving it independently. He's only using it as an Avoda Zara as long as the guy is. If the guy is not, then the Yid doesn't care for it anymore. So it becomes batla automatically.
He can't be mevatel.
But the guy is being mevatel though. The Yid is only serving it because of the guy. So the moment the guy is mevatel his part, so then it becomes batla. But then when Rebbe got older, he changed his opinion. And Rebbe now held that Yisrael adaite the nafshei polach. The Yid that has a partnership in this Avoda Zara and he's also worshipping it, he's doing it with his own das to serve the Avoda Zara. So therefore, ki mevatel Oivid Kechavim the nafshei the Yisrael loy batel. When the guy is mevatel, his part of the Avoda Zara, the part of the Yid will not be batel. It's two different things. So, but the part of the guy though will be batel. That's what Rashi says. The guy can be mevatel his part, but not the part of the Yid. This is one understanding of what the Girsa in the Mishnah was, what Rebbe taught. There are some that taught this, that Rav Hillel, Bereder Rav Valis, he explained that he was explaining the Seif of the Mishnah. And the Seif of the Mishnah it said that Yisrael Eine mevatel avodas kechavim shalev kechavim. That a yid cannot be mevatel the avodah zara of a goy. And this the question was asked. Pshita, it's obvious that a yid doesn't have the koach to be mevatel avodah zara. The reason why it's pshita is because even the fact that a goy could nullify the status of an avodah zara is a chiddush, and it's learned from a pasuk. So by a yid there's no pasuk, so there's no reason to think that a yid should have the koach to be mevatel an avodah zara. Amar Rav Hillel Bereder Rav Valis, so therefore Rav Hillel Bereder Rav Valis explained what the chiddush of the Seif of the Mishnah is. L'nitzrecha, the Bachad's Elo, sheyesh loy ba shutfis. The Seif of the Mishnah is a case where the Yid and the Goy have a partnership in this Avodah Zara. Now what's the chiddush? V'kamash malon, the chiddush here is, Yisrael hu d'loi mevatel, the Oivik Kechavim. The Yid cannot be mevatel, the Avodah Zara of the Goy. Avo Oivik Kechavim, the nafshei mevatel. But the guy could be mevatel his part of the Avodah Zara. So this diuk from the Seif of the Mishnah is what the main chiddush is. Meaning that the fact that the Yid cannot be mevatel his part of the Avodah Zara when there's a partnership, that's also pashut. But the diuk that even though there is a partnership here, the guy could still be mevatel his part, that was the chiddush of the Sefer. There's yet a third opinion about this statement of Rav Hillel Bereder Rav Valis. What did he say regarding? There's some that taught this a braisa, on the following braisa. Rav Shimon ben Menashe says, Avodas kechavim shel Yisrael, and Avodah Zara that belongs to a Yid, ein lo betela olamis. You can never nullify this, forever. All right, so before in the Mishnah we're talking about an Avodah Zara that belongs to a guy, that a Yid cannot be mevatel this. This braisa, Rav Shimon ben Menashe is saying that Avodah Zara that belongs to a Yid, you can never be mevatel this Avodah Zara. So now the question was, my olamis. What's the addition of this word that the braisa says, forever? If it would just say, ein lo betela, I would know you can't be mevatel. Amar Rav Hillel Bereder Rav Valis. It's on this that Rav Hillel, the son of Rav Valis, said, L'nitzrecha ela sheyesh le'oivik kechavim ba shutfis. The Elamis is adding in every circumstance, including when the guy has a partnership in this Avodah Zara, the Kamash Malon, and what it's saying is that the Yisrael Adaite the Nafshei Palach, that the Yid, the part that's his, he's serving it on his own. It's not connected to the part of the Avodah Zara of the guy, and therefore this part of his Avodah Zara you can never be mevatel. How do you nullify an Avodah Zara? So the Mishnah says you have to do something physical to break it. He cut off the tip of its of ears, Reish Chaytma, tip of its nose, Reish Etzba, tip of its fingers, or Pachasa, he smashed it, Ava B'Shalei Chisra, even if there's nothing that he chipped off from it. Bitla, these are all things that are mevatel, Avodah Zara. He does something physical in it, where he breaks it, ruins it, which shows that he's not interested in serving it anymore. However, if he spits in front of Avodah Zara, hishtim urinates in front of it, garara, he drags it in the mud, zarek ba satzaya, throws it at dung, hariza eine betela. With these things, it's not going to be bottled because all it means is that he got angry at his Avodah Zara, he got into a fight with his Avodah Zara, but then afterwards he's going to come back to worship this Avodah Zara again. If he sold Avodah Zara, mishkana, or he uses the Avodah Zara as a collateral for a loan, so Rabbi Yomer Bittul. Rabbi says that means that he's not using it anymore as an Avodah Zara. He's selling it with the intention that no one's going to be serving it again. And the same when he uses it as a collateral. But the Chachamim loy bittul. Chachamim say even after he sells it, he needs the money, but he's not being mevatel the status of Avodah Zara. The buyer will use it for Avodah Zara. So to Gemara, the first part of the Mishnah when it said what you do to be mevatel Avodah Zara. So one of the things was pachasa. He smashed Avodah Zara, but it did nothing chipped off from the actual Avodah Zara. So the question is, Kilei Chisra, if nothing is removed from the actual Avodah Zara, so then b'mai bitla. How is there a bitl to the Avodah Zara? Amar Rab Zeire, so Rab Zeire explains, Shapachasa b'faneha, because he smashed it in its face and it flattened out the image of the face, and therefore it's not anymore the Avodah Zara as is, therefore it's bottle. Then the Mishnah said, "Rakak b'fanev, hishim b'fanev." If he just spit or urinated in front of it, that's a temporary thing that he got angry, but it's not a sign that he's being mevatel Avodah Zara. No, where do we see this? That the guy will then come back and serve the same Avoda Zara. There's a pasuk that says, a guy serves Avoda Zara, he gets hungry. V'skatzev, he gets angry. V'kolol b'malkoi b'lahav, and he curses his Avoda Zara. Pana l'mayla, he turns to Hashem. But then Ksiv Basrei, later the pasuk goes on to say, but vel eretz yabit, he looks back down to the earth below. V'hin itzarav v'chashecha v'gaymen, and it's dark here below. What does it mean that he looks back below? The avagav, the kilol malka v'lahav, even after he cursed his king, his Avoda Zara, upana l'mayla, and he turned with his head to heavens, to the Eibishter, but al eretz yabit. Later on, he turns back to his Avoda Zara here below. Okay, now the Mishnah said that there's a machlokes, machra or mishkana, if he sold Avoda Zara or he gave it as a collateral. Rabbi Yoime Bittel, Rabbi says that this does nullify the Avoda Zara, but the Chachamim said loy bittel. It's not mevatel Avoda Zara. So the Gemara will explain here who exactly did he sell it to, in what circumstances there are machlokes here. Ziri Amar Rabbi Yechanan, v'Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar Rav. So the Ziri in the name of Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba in the name of Rav. So they argued about this machlokes between Rabbi and the Chachamim. Chad Amar, one opinion is machlokes. The argument here is b'tzayrif oivik yechav, when he's selling it to a smith, a guy. So we're talking here about an Avoda Zara that's generally made from some metal material or silver, and who's he selling it to? He's selling it to a silversmith, let's say. But to which silversmith did he sell it to? He sold it to a guy. In such a case, there's a machlokes, because when it's being sold to a guy, so Rabbi says the moment he sells it, it means he gave up on the Avoda Zara being used, and he's mevatel. Chachamim say, well, he's selling it to a guy. So the seller is still thinking that the buyer will still use it as an Avoda Zara. If he sold it to a smith, which is a yid, here everybody agrees that the intention of the guy is to be mevatel the Avoda Zara, because he knows the yid is not going to use this, he's not going to serve it as an Avoda Zara. But another opinion is that B'tzayrif Yisrael machlokes, that in the case of Tzayrif Yisrael, he sold it to a smith, which is a yid. There's also a machlokes here, because there's a svara to say that the yid got this Avoda Zara. What is he going to do with it? He's not going to be mevatel this Avoda Zara. He's not going to just melt it and use it for something else. He's going to sell it as is, because it's an Avoda Zara. He can make more money off of it by selling it as is. So even when you sell it to a Tzayrif or a yid, Chachamim would still argue and say that Avoda Zara is not batel. Okay, that's the two opinions here regarding when this machlokes is. Now, the Shaila was asked regarding the second pshat that we said here, that even when you sell it to a yid, there's also machlokes. What does this mean? B'tzayrif Yisrael machlokes is the second opinion saying that when it's sold to a yid, then it'll be a machlokes, avol tzayrif oivik echavim, but according to this opinion, if it's sold to a smith, a guy, divrei hakoyle bittel. Here, everybody would agree that it's not batel because it's a guy. The buyer is a guy. He's going to serve it as Avoda Zara. So, meaning according to this understanding, just like in the first opinion, the machlokes is only in one case, only in the case when he sold it to a guy. But when you sell it to a yid, everybody agrees it's not batel. Second opinion holds the exact opposite. No, the machlokes is only when you sell it to a yid, but when you sell it to a guy, everybody will agree that it's not batel. Or perhaps the pshat on the second opinion is bein bezeh or bein bezeh machlokes. The second opinion was saying that it doesn't matter who you sell it to, whether you sell it to a guy, whether you sell it to a yid. In both cases, there's a svara to say that there's a machlokes between Rabbi and the Chachamim. Tashema, so the Gemara brings a raya, the Omar Rabbi. Rabbi said about this machlokes that he had with the Chachamim, Nirin devarai, that it appears to me that I am right, kishemachra lechabla. When the guy sold Avoda Zara in order for it to be broken and destroyed. And v'divrei chaveirai, and the words of my colleagues, the Chachamim, seem to be right, shemachra la'ivda, when we know that the guy sold it with the intention that the buyers will use it as an Avoda Zara. Now, so what do we see here from this statement in this braysa? That Rebbe is basically saying that the machlokes between him and the Chachamim is actually in two cases. In the case of when the guy sold it in order to break it, and in the case when he sold it to the guy with the intention that the guy will worship it. But Rebbe is saying that then, regarding the machlokes in both of these cases that I had, in the case where I sell it lechabla, or the guy that sells it lechabla, it'll be mutter, but if you sell it le'oivda, it'll be aser. Now, the question is, how can we say that they're arguing in both of these cases? My lechabla or my le'oivda? What does this braysa mean when it says that it was being sold in order to break it, or is being sold in order to be served as Avoda Zara? If we're going to learn this literally, lechabla means lechabla mamish. It's being sold in order to be broken. Or lo'ivda means lo'ivda mamish. He sold it to the guy with the intention that the guy is going to use it and worship it. So then, how can we say this? My time of the manda omar bittul. What would be the explanation of the opinion that says that it would be bottle in a case where we know that the guy sold it with the intention that the buyer should still serve it, or my time of the mandam alay bittul? And what would be the explanation of the opinion that says that it would not be bottle in a case where we know that the seller sold it for the guy to break it? So Ella, it must be, the pshat is as follows. Lav l'chabla. When it says lachabla, it doesn't mean that he sold it to this person that in order for him to break it, but rather what it means is lamisha asad lachabla. He sold it to somebody that you could expect that he will break it. Omanu, who is this? Tzayif Yisrael. He sold it to a Jew, a smith, that you could expect that he would break it. When it says la'ivda, that he sold it to someone that's going to worship Avoda Zara, who is this? L'misha asad la'ivda. It means to someone that you could expect that he'll use it and worship it as an Avoda Zara. Mano tzarif evikchavim. He sold it to a guy. That's the pshat in the Braisa. So the Braisa here is basically saying that there are both of these cases, and Rebbe is saying that it appears that I'm right in this case and the Chacham are right in the other case, which means that they actually did argue in both cases. So Shema Mina, from this Braisa, we can understand that Bein Bezeh, or the Bach says Bein Bezu, or Bein Bezu Machlekes, that the argument between Rebbe and the Chachamim is in both cases, and that's the pshat in the second opinion that was brought before. So the Gemara Loi, not necessarily is this the pshat in the Braisa. If this would be the pshat in the Braisa, so it doesn't only answer our Iboya that we asked before, but it also is a refutation for the first opinion that says that they're only arguing in a case where you were sold to a guy. So rather the Gemara says, Hachi Kama. This is how you have to understand this Braisa. Rebbe is not saying that there was an argument in both cases. Rather what he's saying is, Amar Rebbe is explaining in what case is the machlekes. Nirin devarai lichaveirai k'shemachra lechabla. My opinion appears right in the eyes of my colleagues in a case when it was sold in order to break it, meaning Umanat Tzayif Yisrael, it was sold to a Yid. So what Rebbe was saying is, in a case when it was sold to a Yid, my colleagues agreed to me. Lichavera, that's how you read it. My colleagues agreed to my opinion. So Rebbe's clarifying that in that case there never was a machlekes. Shav chavera le'nech l'kola. In this case, my colleagues never argued with me. Ella, when did they argue? Keshamachra lo'ivda, when he sold it to someone that we could expect that he would serve it. But in a case when it was sold to someone that you could expect that he will break it, when he sold it to a Yid, they agreed to me. So this fits with the first opinion that was brought before. So according to this, that's how you read it into the Lashon of the Braisa. Rebbe starts off saying, Nirin dvarai k'shemachar l'chabla. It means Nirin dvarai lichaveirai. In this case, there is no argument. And v'divrei chaveirai shemachar lo'ivda. When is the words of my colleagues an argument, in my opinion? Only in the case when it was sold to a guy. Okay, so the Gemara asks from what it says in the Braisa, Meisvei, it says in the Braisa, Lekeyach, Grutois, Menoivde Kechavim. Person buys broken pieces of silver from a guy, and he finds amongst these pieces Avedis Kechavim. There's Avoda Zara, pieces from Avoda Zara. Now, so if the Yid did not pay for this yet, he's buying from a guy, but he didn't pay for this yet. Mashach, but he did Meshicha, he took it into his property, Yachser. He's able to return this to the guy. And the reason is because this is a Mekach Tos. The Yid wasn't buying Avoda Zara here, wasn't expecting to get Avoda Zara. He finds Avoda Zara in it. So it turns out to be a Mekach Tos. It doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the guy, so let him give it back to the guy. If it would belong to the Yid, then you have a problem. Then the Yid can't be Mevatel this Avoda Zara that he already owns. But it's a Mekach Tos, so he gives it back to the guy. However, if he already paid for it and he brought it into his property, then you can't give it back. Yelich liyam hamelach, you have to take it and throw it in the yam hamelach. So Rashi explains this is a gzerim midrabanan. Really minatayre, it's a mekach tos, and he was not kind of this. But because he paid for it already, he brought it into his property, if he's going to give it back to the guy and then buy back from him, after the guy would be mevatel that Avoda Zara, you give it back to the guy and let him be mevatel it, and then you'll buy it from him. It looks like that you're buying this Avoda Zara from the guy, and it looks like that it doesn't look like it was a mekach tos. It looks like you're buying this Avoda Zara from the guy. So therefore, the guy said that you should just throw it out. Okay, so now what do we see over here? A Yid is buying this Avoda Zara from a guy, and what is it saying? That it's not going to be bottle. Why not? If we're going to follow the opinion that says that even when a guy sells his Avoda Zara to a Yiddish smith, then there's an argument about this. So how many Rabbanon? This Bryce is the opinion of the Rabbanon that even when the guy sells it to a Yid, it's not bottle. But if you're going to say like the other opinion that the whole argument is only when it's sold to a guy, if you saw when a guy sells his Avoda Zara to a Yid, everybody agrees that Avoda Zara is bottle. So now how many? Who is the Tana of this Brisa that says the guy sells silver and in it there's pieces of Avoda Zara that it won't be bottle? Why should it not be bottle if you're selling it to a Yid? Answers the Gemara, no, you can't ask a question from this Brisa. Shani Hasam, this case is different. The Adaita de Grutoi Zavin, the guy is selling pieces of silver. Adaita de Avodas Kechavim Zavin, he himself, the seller, the guy didn't even realize that there's pieces of Avoda Zara in it. So therefore he never had any intention to be mevatel this. Mishnah is talking about a case where the guy is aware of exactly what it is that he's selling. So he's being mevatel that Avoda Zara. When he sells it to a Yid, he knows the Yid will not use it as an Avoda Zara. Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa we learned, the guy borrows money using this Avoda Zara as a collateral, or a wall of racks fell on it, and the guy leaves the Avoda Zara there under the racks. List him, robber stole the Avoda Zara and he doesn't go after it. Or if the owner of this Avoda Zara left it, and they went overseas. If they're coming back, like it was in the case of Yeshua when he came and fought in Eretz Yisrael to conquer the land, the Gemara will explain this point soon, then Ein Betela. Then it will not be bottle. Right? So you see over here in all these cases that even though he's using it as a collateral or it was a mapilis or it was stolen, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be bottle because the guy could still be coming back for it. So now the Gemara explains what's the chiddush here in each one of these cases. It's necessary for the Tana to say all these cases. If it would say the case where the guy uses it as a collateral, so the reason why in this case it's not bottled, because midoloi zovna, since he didn't sell it, so like botla, he wasn't mevatel it. He's not getting rid of it. He's using it now. He's strapped for cash, so he's using it as a collateral. But he's planning on using it again as an Avoda Zara. But when a wall of bricks fell on it, and he's just leaving it there. The fact that he's not clearing it and getting his Avoda Zara out, so I would think that in this case, it's a sign that he's done with his Avoda Zara. He's nullifying it. So Tzricha, therefore, has to say, the second case as well, that he's not mevatel the Avoda Zara. If it would say the second case as well, that when a wall fell on it, I would say the reason it's not bottle, mishum de savar, because the guy is not in a rush. He thinks to himself, ha manachas, my Avoda Zara is there. Kolem is the be'ina lo shekilin lo. Whenever I want, it's available. I can go and take it. So the fact that he's not rushing to take it is not a sign that he's being mevatel. But when robbers stole it, the fact that he's not going after the robbers to get it back, so then betuli batla. That's a sign that he was mevatel the Avoda Zara. So therefore Tzricha has to say this case as well by the robbers that it will not be batla. Now, if we would say this case that if robbers stole it, that he's not mevatel even if we see he's not going after it, because what we say is even if he doesn't want it back for himself, but the guy is thinking to himself, if the robber is a guy, the guy is still using it as an Avoda Zara. So the guy never has an intention in his mind, this Avoda Zara is gone. If it's a Yid that stole it, Heidi, the Dama Yakarin, even by a Yid. What's the Yid Akana for? Why is he stealing this Avoda Zara? Because he knows this Avoda Zara is an expensive piece. The Yid is going to sell it to a guy, and the guy will still worship it as an Avoda Zara. So therefore, by a robber, I would understand that even if the owner is not retrieving it, it's not bottled. But if I see that the owner left it and they went overseas, maybe I would say that since they did not take the Avoda Zara along with them, they were mevatel the Avoda Zara. So therefore Tzricha had to say over here, this halacha, the last halacha of this brisa, that if they're coming back, it's not going to be bottle. Okay, now but what did it say in the brisa? That that if the people that left are coming back like it was by the Mulchama when Yeshua fought the war conquering Eretz Yisrael, then in Betela it will not be bottle. So the question is, what are we learning out from what happened by Yeshua? Midi Milchemes Yeshua Meheda Hodar. When Yeshua conquered Eretz Yisrael and he expelled all the Goyim that were there, did they ever return? They didn't return. So what are we learning from Yeshua? So the Gemara says, you're right, over there they didn't return, but Hachi Ka'amar. This is what the Braisa is saying. That in Masidin Lachzar, if the people that left our Avoda Zara behind, but they're coming back, then it won't be batal and harei hu k'milchemes Yeshua ve'ein la betela. It'll be compared to what is by the Milchama of Yeshua, where there, the Avoda Zara that the Goyim left behind, even though they never returned, but over there, that Avoda Zara that they left behind was actually never batal. And the reason is because when the Goyim were chased out of Eretz Yisrael, they were not mevatal their Avoda Zara. They were hoping they're going to come back one day. So even though over there it's like different than our case, over there they never ended up coming back. But it's just using that as an example of a case where the Goyim that left or were expelled were never mevatel their Avoda Zara. So here, a person that leaves and ends up coming back, we know that he was not mevatel his Avoda Zara. That's the pshat. Oh, so the Gemara asks if that's all we're saying here, that basically the people that are coming back, so their Avoda Zara is not batal. So So why is it saying that this Avoda Zara is not batal like the Avoda Zara in the times of Yeshua, which is not batal? Let it just simply say that it's not batal because they're coming back. What's the connection to Yeshua? It's a different kind of case there, anyways. So the Gemara says, Milse agav orche kamash malam. It's bringing up the Avoda Zara and Eretz Yisrael when Yeshua conquered the land. It's derech agav teaching me another halacha here, and that is kihad da'amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav. Rav Yudah said in the name of Rav that Yisrael shezakav leveina l'shtach v'isla. A yid that takes a brick and he stands it up on its taller side in order to bow to it. But then he didn't though. But a boy v'kachavim v'shtach v'la. A guy comes and he bows to it. Asra. He will aser this brick, it'll become aser bahana. Okay, so now the chiddush over here is the guy is asering the brick of the yid that usually there's a klal that eno the moiser dovish eno shaloi. You can't aser something that doesn't belong to you. The yid didn't serve it as an Avoda Zara. The guy comes and bows down to it and it becomes aser. Why is this? So minal on the asr. So what's the source for this? That if the guy now comes and bows down to this brick that the yid put up, that it will become asr. So Amar Avoda Zara says kitchila shel Eretz Yisrael. We can learn this from what happened in the beginning when Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael. The Amar Achmane, what does the Torah say? Vashireim tisir from beish. You come into Eretz Yisrael, take their Asherah trees and burn it on fire. Question is, why is this an Avoda Zara? Mechdi, let's see, what's this land? Yerushihi lehem aviseim. The land is an inheritance from our forefathers. A person does not have the ability to access something that does not belong to him. So the land that's promised to the Yidden from the time of Avraham Avinu, it already has a level of ownership of Yidden, and therefore the Goyim cannot create a status of Avoda Zara in the land, seemingly. So how does it become Asr? The Rishayim actually point out regarding this halacha of Ein Adam Ma'aseh Davar Shein Shaloi that if the guy goes or anyone goes and does an action and changes something and fashions an Avoda Zara out of something even if it's not his, it does become Asr. So in Eretz Yisrael, you technically could say that the Goyim came and planted these trees, or even if they didn't plant it, but they changed something in it that made it Asr. But somebody Shainim answer that that's only by another Yochid, not by Eretz Yisrael, which belongs to Klal Yisrael. A guy does not have the ability to answer this. Now, the Gemara argues, maybe there are those trees that are there in the land that are growing from even before the times of Avraham Avinu. So therefore, those trees can't say that this is a here that exists only from the time of the Yerusha of Avraham Avinu, and therefore it cannot be bottled. Maybe these are from the trees that are there already from before, and they were already established as an Avoda Zara from before. But still, it shouldn't be a problem. Why? Because b'bitula ba'al mesagilu. Wouldn't it be enough just to have the guy come and be mevatel Avoda Zara? And Rashi adds to that, even if the guy is not interested in being mevatel Avoda Zara, we learned earlier in the Masechta that you could force a guy to be mevatel Avoda Zara, and the nullification takes effect. So why is the pasuk saying that they must burn the Asherah trees in fire? So Ella, the answer to this is mitapalchu Yisrael Egel, because Yidden themselves served the Avoda Zara. They served the Egel Galu adatayu. By this, the Yidden reveal their intent, the nichelu b'avedas kechavim, that they're happy with the serving of Avoda Zara, and therefore v'chi also avdi kechavim. When a guy comes along now in Eretz Yisrael and serves Avoda Zara, shlichusa didhu avdi. What they're doing is like a shlichus. The Gemara doesn't mean literally shlichus. There's no shlichus by a guy, but it's like a shlichus of the Yid. The Yid is happy with this, and therefore it becomes asar. That's what I learned from Avoda Zara that the Yidden came to in Eretz Yisrael right when they came in, where the Torah says it must be burnt. So once we see that there, so from here I learn now, Hachanami, so too, Yisrael shazakav levena, a Yid that puts up a brick, Gal Yidate dinichal. By that action, he reveals his intent that he's interested by Avodas Kechavim, that it should be an Avoda Zara. So therefore, V'chi Asa V'Kechavim Upalachlo. And when a guy comes and worships it, Shlichus Didei Kavit. It's like a shlichus of the Yid. What the guy is doing, the Yid is happy with, and therefore it will become Aser. Right, so this is when the Braiser said that it's like the times of Yeshua, it was coming to remind us or to teach us this halacha that by Yeshua, when Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, the Avoda Zara is going to be Aser. Okay, but now the Gemara asks on this connection to the fact that Yidden served the Egel many years before, how could you say from that Yidden want this Avoda Zara? But maybe I could say be'egelu denichuluhu. Then with the egel, the Yidden then were interested in serving the egel. But even then, when they were serving the egel, it was just the egel, but not any other Avoda Zara. Here we're talking about the Asherah trees. So the Gemara says, no, at that time actually, Omakra, the pasuk says, Eile Elehecha Yisrael, that the Yidden said about the egel, this is Elehecha Yisrael. They used the plural term, Melamed She'ivu Le'elahos Harbe. Their desire was serving Avoda Zara, not only the egel, but other Avoda Zaras as well. So therefore that includes Asherah, which was in Eretz Yisrael at that time. They showed already then their interest in Avoda Zara. But the question is, but maybe I should say only what was there at the time of the Egel will be Aser, because then, once the Yidden already revealed their intent at that time, so then a guy at that time period that came and served Avoda Zara, it's like he's doing the shlichus of the Yid, and it would be Nitzru that would become Aser. But Mekam ve'elech, what's afterwards? After the Yidden did Shuvah for the chet of the egel. So nishtiri, whatever other trees there are in Eretz Yisrael that were not worshipped as an Avoda Zara, when the goyim come and serve it afterwards, it should be allowed, because the goy can't asa this Avoda Zara, or the goy could be mevatel this Avoda Zara. So the Gemara says, but man muchach. The problem is, who is going to know? Who is going to go and prove to us which Avoda Zara, which Asherah tree the Goyim worshipped at the time when Yidden did the Egel, before they did Shuvah, and which one was afterwards. So it's mixed. We don't know what is what. And therefore, the Torah says you have to be mevatel the Asherah trees, you have to, or rather you have to burn, that is, get rid of the Asherah trees in Eretz Yisrael. Sagt der Heilige Mishneh, Avodas Kechavim shenichua oivdeha, an Avoda Zara that the Goyim just left it behind, and they went. If it's a time of peace, muteres, then it's going to be allowed, because once they left and they didn't take it with them and they're not coming back, that means that they gave up on it. However, if they fled in a time of war, asura, it'll be asur, because they left, because they had to leave, but they are planning to come back. Bimusais shalom malachim, these bimusais, which is like a she says, Avne Gozis, it's like a rock that's prepared in the way where the king is going, and when the king passes by, they put on it Avoda Zara, and they bow to the Avoda Zara. Hare'elu mutares, this will be mutter. Why? Because this is something that's placed there only at the time that it should be ready for the king that passes by, but it's not prepared to be there as an Avoda Zara all the time. Okay, the Gemara will explain why, though, it should not become Asa, even if it's there temporarily. Beis Nimrod, the house of Nimrod. Rashi says this refers to the tower of Dera Floge that was built as an Avoda Zara. And Nimrod was the king in that time. There are other Rishonim actually that say that it's not referring to the Migdal that of the Dera Floge, it's referring to the house of Avoda Zara by Nimrod. The status of this is like an Avoda Zara that the Goyim left it in a time of peace, and they left it behind, and they're not coming back, umutter, and therefore it'll be allowed to have a nor from it. Now, what's the chiddush here? Afal gav the chibadrinu rachmana. What happened by the Dora Flaga? The Eibishter dispersed them from this place. So at that time, when the Eibishter dispersed them, kishas mochamed dami, they ran away like it was a war. But it wasn't really a war. And then they had the possibility to come back. So the fact that they did not come back, betuli batla. That's a sign that they weren't interested in this anymore, and therefore the Avoda Zara will be batla. Then the Mishnah said, "B'musais shel melachim areila mutaris." These platforms or these tall rocks that they prepared in the place where the king travels, it'll be mutter. So now the question is why? Just because it's something that's placed there only temporarily when the king travels, should it be mutter? But once it's already designated and it's served as an Avoda Zara, it should become aser. The pshat in this is as follows. They place it there at the time when the king is traveling and he passes through there. But it's not even for sure that the king is coming here. The king ends up going in another way and he doesn't even come through this way. So therefore you can't say that it's already actually designated for Avoda Zara because it's possible that the king doesn't come here. Dr. Gemara ki asa Ula, when Ula came, Yasiv Abimsa Pegima. He was sitting on this platform that was made for an Avoda Zara, but it was broken. It wasn't in good condition. So Ula, that is, was sitting on it. Amalei Rav Yehuda lo Ula. So Rav Yehuda tells Ula, how are you allowed to sit in this? Rav Shmuel Damri Tarvayu. Rav and Shmuel both said, Bimus, this platform of the Avoda Zara shenivgam, even after it got broken a little, Asa, you still are not allowed to have any anor from it. The fact that it got a little broken doesn't mean that it's not being used for Avoda Zara anymore. And the Gemara explains, even according to the opinion that we had earlier in the Masechta, that that once an Avoda Zara is broken, it's not anymore served as an Avoda Zara. That's the Avoda Zara, the zila ba milsa lemiflach l'shvarim, because it's degrading to serve an Avoda Zara that's broken pieces. Aval hai, but over here when it's a platform that has a pagam in it, the fact that it's a little broken doesn't matter. It's still a platform that can be used. So it's asaba no. So how is Ola allowed to sit on this? Yeah, it's Mishamshe Avoda Zara, correct. Amalei, so Ola answered him and said, Man Yovlon me'afred Rav Shmuel and Malina Leinen. Who's going to give me from the earth of Rav and Shmuel? Maybe it means where they're buried or where they lived, and I'll fill my eyes with it. In other words, he was saying that Rav and Shmuel was so great. But nevertheless, Rabbi Yechon and Rish Lakish and Rish Lakish disagree, and they both said that Bimus Shenivgam, this platform, if it has a blemish, mutter, you're allowed to use it. And he explained the opposite svara. Even the opinion that says that a guy will worship broken pieces of an Avoda Zara, that's by the Avoda Zara itself, the Kivin the Palcha, since it was once worshipped as Avoda Zara, zila ba milsa levetula. So it's degrading for him to now be mevatel this Avoda Zara. But over here, regarding this platform, shakli lahai yamaisi b'misachrina. Once it's partially damaged, they will get rid of this one and they'll bring another one. So therefore, once there's a pagam, you can't use it anymore. So therefore, it's mutter. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kavasei, the Rabbi Yechon and Rish Lakish, and Abraisa we learned, like Rabbi Yechon and Rish Lakish said, bimus shenivgam. This platform that became blemished, mutter, it's allowed. Now, the Bryce says another day, Mizbeach shenivgam, the Mizbeach, the Beis Hamikdash, Mizbeach that is, the Mizbeach that's an altar, that's used to sacrifice Avoda Zara on it, so it's not this platform, but it's a Mizbeach, and it became blemished, aser. It's still going to be forbidden to have a naw from, because the Goyim will still use it for their Avoda Zara, until it's going to be mostly destroyed. So now the Gemara explains, how do you tell the difference between like a big rock that's put up as a platform or it's as an altar? The bimos is even achas. The bimos, this platform, is actually just one large rock. Mizbeach is avonim harbe. Mizbeach is when it's many rocks together that form this altar. Let's just see the conclusion of the Inyan. The Gemara says, where is a pasuk that you see that the Mizbeach is made from many rocks and it's also until you smash most of it? It says in the pasuk, Ma'ikra, it says, Besumai kol avne Mizbeach ka avne gir munufotzes, that they put the stones of the Mizbeach, it says the plural term, like these avne gir that are munufotzes, avne gir, a certain type of stones that are shattered, lo yakumu, can't get up, it can't be used anymore, asherim v'chamonim. So which means, if all these stones of this altar is all like flattened out or it's shattered, lo yakumun asharim v'chamonim. then it doesn't stand anymore to be there as for an Asheda, for an Avoda Zara, which they'll use it to sacrifice on it. But the ilav, if it's not broken apart mostly, then yukumu. They will still use this. This is the source in the pasuk for this halacha.